The first time she said it, the world didn't stop, but my heart did. We were sitting in my car, engine still running, rain tapping softly on the windshield like it was eavesdropping. She didn't look at me when she whispered, "I want a baby. Can you help me?" My mind raced with 1,000 questions, but my mouth moved faster than my fear. "Then I guess I'm becoming a father." I didn't know it yet, but that single sentence was the moment my old life quietly stepped aside to make room for something terrifying, beautiful, and permanent. And if you think this is just a love story, stay with me, because the hardest part didn't come after the baby. It came before we even knew if we deserved one. Her name was Lena, and we weren't a couple in the traditional sense. We were the kind of people life throws together when both are slightly broken but pretending they're fine. We worked in the same building, different floors, same tired smiles in the elevator. She had laughter that came suddenly, like sunlight through clouds, and eyes that carried stories she never told. I knew she'd been married once. I knew it ended badly. What I didn't know was how long she'd been carrying this dream alone. That night in the car, after I said those words, she finally looked at me. Her eyes filled, not with excitement, but fear. "I don't want romance," she said quickly, like she was afraid I'd misunderstand. "I don't want promises you can't keep. I don't want to wake up at 45 and realize I waited too long because I was scared." I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. I wasn't scared of a baby. I was scared of failing one. That we talked for hours. About boundaries. About expectations. About what would happen if feelings got messy, which they always do. She told me doctors had warned her not to wait much longer. I told her I grew up without a father who stayed. Somewhere between confessions and silence, the rain stopped, but neither of us noticed. When I dropped her off, she paused before closing the door. "You can still say no," she said. "I won't hate you." I swallowed. "I know. But I'm not saying no." The weeks that followed were strangely calm, like the quiet before a storm. We met doctors, filled forms, had awkward conversations that felt too big for coffee shops. Friends didn't understand. Some laughed. Some warned me. "You're not even dating," they said. "You'll ruin your life." I smiled and changed the subject, but at night, alone, their words echoed. What if they were right? What if love wasn't enough, or worse, what if love wasn't even part of this? Then reality hit us harder than expected. The first attempt failed. Then the second. Each time, Lena tried to be strong, but I saw the cracks. She started blaming herself, her body, time itself. One evening, she broke down in my kitchen, sitting on the floor, back against the cabinet. "I knew it," she cried. "I waited too long. I always wait too long." I sat beside her, unsure if my presence helped or hurt. "You didn't fail," I said softly. "This is just hard." She looked at me like she wanted to believe it but didn't know how. The third time, when the doctor gently shook his head, something changed in me. Not anger, resolve. I realized this wasn't about biology anymore. It was about showing up. About staying even when the outcome was uncertain. I held Lena's hand in the parking lot as she stared straight ahead. "You don't have to keep doing this," I told her. She turned to me, eyes red but steady. "Do you still want to?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "Yes. With you." That night, after she fell asleep on my couch, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, the idea of being a father didn't scare me because of responsibility, it scared me because I wanted it so badly. And wanting something that much gives it the power to break you. When she finally got pregnant, it didn't happen with celebration or tears of joy. It happened in silence. She came out of the bathroom holding the test, hands shaking. She didn't smile. "I'm scared," she said. I took the test, looked at the faint line, then looked back at her. "Me too," I admitted. Then I pulled her into my arms, and we stood there, scared together. That was the moment I realized this wasn't an arrangement anymore. It was a family beginning in the most fragile way possible, but if you think that's where the story settles, don't leave yet, because chapter 2 is where love gets tested, not by doubt, but by reality. The first time I heard the heartbeat, I had to sit down. It was fast, strong, undeniable. Lena squeezed my hand, her nails digging into my skin, and laughed through tears. In that room, everything felt right. But outside it, life didn't slow down to admire our miracle. Bills piled up. Work got harder. Lena's pregnancy wasn't easy, constant nausea, endless fatigue, quiet fears she didn't always voice. And then came the question we'd been avoiding, "What are we?" she asked one night. We were assembling a crib in her apartment, instructions spread across the floor like a puzzle neither of us had solved before. I froze, screwdriver in hand. "We're parents," I said carefully. She nodded, but her eyes searched mine. "And us?" The silence stretched. I didn't want to lie. "I don't know," I said. "But I know I'm not going anywhere." She looked down, then back up. "I don't need perfect," she whispered. "I just need real." Reality arrived earlier than expected. Lena went into labor 2 weeks early. The hospital lights were too bright, the hours too long. I watched her endure pain I couldn't take away, feeling useless and overwhelmed. When our daughter finally cried, small, fierce, alive, something inside me broke open. The nurse placed her in Lena's arms, and Lena looked at me with exhaustion and wonder. "Meet your daughter," she said. My throat closed. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear those words. The weeks after were chaos. Sleepless nights. Arguments over nothing. Moments where we both felt invisible and overwhelmed. There were nights Lena cried quietly while feeding the baby, and mornings I sat in my car before work, gathering strength. We weren't pretending anymore. This was real life, messy and unfiltered. Once, during a particularly rough night, Lena snapped, "You didn't have to do this." I snapped back, "Neither did you." The words hung between us, heavy and sharp. Then the baby cried, reminding us why we were here. Later, Lena apologized. So did I. We learned that love sometimes sounds like saying sorry more often than you want. One evening, months later, after the baby finally slept, Lena sat beside me on the couch. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. I thought about the fear, the exhaustion, the uncertainty. Then I thought about tiny fingers wrapping around mine, about a laugh that came from Lena now more easily than before. "No," I said. "I don't regret choosing us." She smiled, not the nervous smile from the car months ago, but a calm one. "I didn't just want a baby," she said. "I wanted someone who would stay." I reached for her hand. So did I admitted that we didn't start as a love story people expect. There was no grand confession, no perfect timing. But somewhere between fear and faith, we built something honest. I learned that being a father isn't about having all the answers, it's about choosing to stand up, every day, even when you're scared. Lena learned she didn't have to carry her dreams alone. And our daughter will grow up knowing that sometimes families are born not from perfect plans, but from brave decisions. So if you're still listening, remember this: life doesn't always ask you when you're ready. Sometimes it asks if you're willing. And the most powerful love stories don't begin with certainty, they begin with someone saying, "I'm not going anywhere."